Recording in progress.
Good afternoon. Welcome, and I am calling to order this meeting of the Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals. Roll, present. Vice Chair Josh.
Present.
Stephen.
Present.
Brian.
Present.
Awesome. Regarding today's agenda, do we have an action on the agenda?
I will move to approve the agenda.
I wanted to note, regular business 25-22, that's number 3 on your list. They have taken off their request for an appeal. The request from Jerry
Marshland,
Marsland
Ryan.
of Reynolds Sign on East Mason Street.
Okay.
So they have taken off the request.
Great, all right. So with that deletion, you're moving approval, Josh?
I will move to approve the agenda with the deletion of item number 3, appeal 25-22.
And I will second the second.
Great. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carried. An approval of minutes of the August 18th meeting of the board.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion from Stephen and a second from Brian to approve those minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Great. Let's head into regular business, and I will read the stuff that I gotta read here to make sure that we communicate. The Zoning and Planning Board of Appeals acts on appeals for variances from city zoning code requirements. The members of the board are appointed, and this board acts as a quasi-judicial body during these appeals, which means they're presented somewhat like they might be presented in court, and the board acts as the judge and determines whether to grant the appeal by a majority vote. For each item, we'll hear from the applicant or petitioner, we'll use those terms interchangeably, and staff. We'll actually hear from staff first on each item, as well as any additional witnesses where appropriate. If you are the petitioner for an item on tonight's agenda, please take a seat up here at the table when your item is called. And first up is Appeal 25-23, consideration with possible action on a variance request from Matt Buchanan of the City of Green Bay Community and Economic Development Department applicant and the Redevelopment Authority of Green Bay, the property owner, requesting to exceed building frontage setbacks within the D1 downtown district, driveway width standards, and placement of driveway improvements adjacent to residentially zoned property at 402 and 420 South Broadway, along with 419 South Maple Avenue. Welcome. It is the goal of the Board of Appeals to provide and conduct a hearing that is fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies these goals, would each member of the Board of Appeals please confirm the following for this appeal by stating, "I confirm." I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I confirm. I have not received any communication or from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
And I confirm. Great, and we will get started with the staff presentation. I know it's all staff presentation, but we'll still hear from this staff first. Mr. Leroy. John, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
All right, tell us about this request.
All right, so we're looking, what was 3 items and what has now been reduced to 2. The applicants are taking off section 44-1964. They are not seeking a variance on that part of this appeal. So what we're looking at is 2 different sections. First being section 44-620, table 44-6, sub F. At least 60% of the front facade of a building must fall between 0 and 20 feet within a downtown district. In this case, the applicant is seeking a setback between 25 and 66 feet off the right-of-way for approximately 70% of the overall parcel, and that being 3-569, that's 420 South Broadway. The second would be section 44-173, sub D, sub 3. Opening of driveway shall not exceed 30 feet at the right-of-way or 40 feet at the curb. Applicant is seeking an opening of approximately 160 feet at the right-of-way and 170 at the curb. And as noted, the last one will not be addressed. So this is the overall site. What you're seeing here is 4 individual parcels owned by the RDA, part of one large project, but the parts that are in question are only on this parcel right here at 420 South Broadway, where this tower is at. It's possible in the future there'll be some property lines that'll be rearranged, but right now, we have these 4 properties. This is a rendering of what the mixed-use development is proposed over at Broadway and Arndt. Be a 5-story mixed-use building with a residential and commercial components up at the northeast corner of the overall facility, southwest corner of Broadway and Arndt. And then to the south would be the fire station components with bays that are running here that lead fire department vehicles out onto Broadway itself for fire station number 1. This is a site plan of the overall facility. I'll note this drive entrance off of South Maple, that will get moved around to not have any effect on the 1964. So they'll be making the changes on that to proceed. But what's at stake here is the following. The white area you're seeing here is the proposed building that's at play. And with this all being in the D1 downtown zone, that majority of the building has to be within the minimum and maximum setback for a downtown zone. In this case, on this parcel, approximately 70% of the property is set back at 25 to 66 feet. The vast majority of it being proposed as uses for vehicle bays for the fire department vehicles. Other parts that have been at note as far as when the fire department and other parts of the Department of Community and Economic Development staff have been looking at this to try to get a site plan through is the parcels themselves are part of a floodplain, and to make development work on this site, you have to put in fill that reaches 2 feet above the floodplain for areas where the building is located at on the site, and that's a good chunk of this property here. If you're placing a building inside of what is this blue area, they have to come forth with what's called a CLOMAR, a conditional letter of map amendment, that would show that in their site plans, the building will be raised above 2 feet above the floodplain in that area. So that's going to mean putting in about 3 or 4 feet of fill in the area back on the southern part of this property to make things work. You'll notice though Broadway, there are parts of it that are down in the floodplain. You can't really change that right away though as far as street goes. That elevation stays the same, but then back over here, this elevation has to be higher to get that private property out of the floodplain to have development happen on that site. So there's been a balancing act they've taken to try to account for those changes, differences. This is what the site looks like right now when you're viewing from a northbound direction on Broadway. I shouldn't say right now because there has been some, this is a view from last year. Most of these buildings, if not all of them, are all now being in the process of being demolished. So what you're seeing here is a raised site. If you were to go out there today and actually take a look at the site. So going back to the plans here and the two parts of the code that are in play. First thing, in a downtown district, the goal behind having the 0 to 20 feet for a minimum and maximum for a setback is to try to keep a form in a downtown setting to where you're placing the activities back up towards the street itself, not have much of a suburban setback, really trying to utilize that space up along the front of a building. The second part of this would be the driveways and width. Typically speaking, an individual driveway entrance would be 30 feet max, the right-of-way 40 feet at the curb and gutter itself. In this case, from here back down this way, it's approximately 160 feet at the sidewalk and 170 at the curb and gutter. This is the egress area for where the fire trucks would be coming onto Broadway to access emergency services for the west side and the near east side. This will get moved to be within code, but this is the ingress drive to allow for parking and driveway access back to the western portion of the bays to come on in so people wouldn't be, so vehicles would not be doing any sort of backward movements on Broadway itself into the future. So it is those two parts of the code that are in play with this question.
Thanks. Any questions for staff? John, those existing buildings or pre-existing buildings that had been raised, they look like they had a variety of setbacks from the street that might include ones that were well in excess of what we're talking about here, right?
They did, but this would be before the code itself came into play. That's true, but what was there before, you're not seeing even in this photo, but there's a barber shop that would have been beyond 20 feet beyond the setback.
Right.
And then if you were to look over on Maple, there were some multiples that were setback for
So
this.
those heavier
Yes.
commercial buildings.
Yep.
All right. All right, if there's no other questions for John, we'll hear from our petitioners. Gentlemen, would you please give your name and address? You can use your office address as the address.
Sure. My name is Matthew Knott. I'm the fire chief at 100 North Jefferson.
And I'm Matt Buchanan, and I'm also at 100 North Jefferson Street. I'm
Great.
with the Department of Community and Economic Development, representing the Redevelopment Authority property owner.
Excellent. And do both of you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
We do.
Awesome. Thanks. Take it away.
Thank you so much for hearing our case today. As staff has presented, we do have some challenges with the site, with floodplain and elevation we have to work through. Also just some practical matters of the fire station and making sure that facility operates appropriately. Being a planner myself, I always want to see buildings being placed as close to the streets as possible in a downtown setting. We love that density with that environment, but in certain cases, it's just not practicable to accomplish because of challenges, and so that's what we see here. I'll let the fire chief speak to specifics with operations of a fire department facility and why we need to make some adjustments here.
Correct, thank you. One of the biggest things that you see at this site is the challenge of building up our building. And again, the fire station itself has to be 3 feet out of the floodplain. The apartment building has to be 2 feet. So there we look at departure angle. And our fire apparatus, as they come out, they're obviously very large pieces of equipment. And we really worry about that departure angle. And initially we looked at some with a maximum angle of 5 degrees that we could have. And that's steep. And this actually puts us in the like a 3-degree range, which is it's still relatively steep, but actually puts us in a much better situation. So, that's one of our first things we look at. We're also extremely cognizant of landscaping and the need for some sort of a visual breakup of this. We understand that that large sheet of concrete isn't most appealing, and we absolutely can understand that. What we've looked at and worked with our architects is to maybe, well, one part is kind of shown there, right by the S of the south of S Broadway there. There is a little appendage that would come out, and we're looking at maybe incorporating some landscaping in that as an option. We're also looking at, on the far south side, we'll have some smaller apparatus, SUV style or pickup truck style apparatus that would be coming out of there. So there we have the ability to change that angle slightly and actually shrink this up. So what we're asking for today is just the maximum width, with the full understanding that our desire is, much like everybody else, to bring that down a little bit more and provide a little bit more landscaping, provide a little bit more appealing look to this. We understand that this building it will be visually appealing anyway. Obviously, if we could have it close to the road, that would be great. But we also struggle with some of our other fire stations, much like Fire Station 2 off of University, where basically you come out and you're on the street. And that's not safe for anybody. As our apparatus come out, we're quickly in traffic lanes or in pedestrian traffic. This setback does allow us a much more safe departure from the fire station and much more, just the ability for our firefighters to operate better and more safely and more effectively. So the building itself, also with the apron, allows us the opportunity to do training and maintenance out front. Again, maintenance by, just rig checks and equipment maintenance, not heavy maintenance like changing tires or brakes or stuff like that, but just basically our daily checkoffs and our daily work that we do. Like I said, visually appealing building. Obviously, we would like, much like everybody else, to have it closer to the roadway. Again, that puts us at a really steep angle, and actually setting back further would be more appealing to us, and that would allow us to have that taper down into a single driveway. But this sets very well on this site, and I think we'll all be very happy with the product as it comes out.
I should also recognize that our development partner, Sig Stratmanis with General Capital Group, is on the call. Just wanted to have him available in case we had more technical questions that he could answer.
Yeah, and in terms of the housing portion of this, there aren't any parts to this request that are related to that section. It's really just about driveway egress from the fire station proper. That's
Correct.
right. Okay, and the setback related to that. Okay. Any questions for our petitioners here?
I heard a lot about the setback. I just want to clarify. I assume that the driveway width is so that you're not driving your apparatus over curb cuts.
That's correct. Yeah, the apparatus would, again, we're going to have fire trucks here that are 45-plus feet long, and they're going to go straight out now at this way. Again, if we look at going out and turning quickly to try and get into a smaller, narrow funnel, isn't very conducive at this site specifically. We are going to do that on the south side as best we can. Work with our designers and developers to see if we can reduce that. And so again, that full width would be shrunk slightly.
So the main problem is that because you have to raise the property, you're getting a driveway that's maybe not tenable for the vehicles. You said you'd prefer to have it even farther back. If I may ask, why haven't you asked for that? Does it create other problems?
It does. It doesn't. The site itself would, yeah, there's a lot of other plans for the
That's what I
site.
figured,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very nice site, and there's, like I said, some great plans for the future of the site too, so.
So essentially what your thing is, almost the entire front of the fire station will just be driveway?
With the exception of the actual administrative part on the
Right,
north
right.
side, and then that.
Everywhere in front of, everywhere in front of it, okay.
Yeah.
Doors.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yep, so again, here's the look. Again, I would argue it's very attractive building, and it'll be a great addition to this area.
Well, it's gotta be better than the buildings Gagnon abandoned, what, 20 years ago?
So if you could go to the plan view, John, I don't know if you can zoom in on that at all to the fire station portion, but, so, is that portion that seems to be going to Broadway here? I don't see that represented on the rendering.
Yeah.
Is that structure, or is that
That
just kind of, could be a landscape feature? or
That,
something?
the plan is that comes out from like where that one is there.
Right.
And that part is in between both apparatus bays. And that part is something that we've spoken of that could come out as a landscaping bulb or some sort of
Sure.
appendage to that, but.
Sure. I think I got it. And then, John, on that plan view, I can't see from this end of the table very well, but are the drive lanes or the paved area represented in there, that we can see that?
Yeah, so you're seeing the drive lanes here, this.
In the gray?
Gray, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And so then there's going to be a way to kind of scooch around the south end of this building as well?
Yes.
From the back lot?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, between that and any neighboring property boundaries would be a bike path, some water retention, railroad tracks, et cetera, so.
Okay. Other questions, gentlemen? Anything else to add from our petitioners?
This is a SIG on
Sure.
Zoom, and I apologize, I wasn't able to be there today.
Is Sig, before you add anything, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, as the master developer of the site, we took into consideration and the priority of the Broadway corner, where the residential pieces that aren't in Broadway, and that was really the critical corner to keep up at the street. And so what we tried to do is maintain that street there and just understand the practical reality of how these, how the fire trucks have to come in and out, but still being very aware that it's not like the entire thing is being pulled off of the street. It's actually just the fire station portion of it, and that we viewed this as one large development. In other words, the architect, the same exterior architect is kind of treating the whole skin, even though there's a specialty architect for the chief's fire station. There's this idea that the entire project wants to be, wants to hang together with priority put at the corner of Broadway and Art. I'm just adding that because that dashed red line is actually really that's a condominium, it's almost a fictitious line. These are two buildings that are trying to, seamlessly work together. That's all I wanted to add, just that, we appreciate the importance of wanting to maintain the street, and we attempted to do that as much as we could with the main part of the building.
Great. All right, anything else? All right, I'll entertain some debate here. Does anybody want to take a look at our criteria and discuss this?
I'll take a crack at it. As far as the preservation of intent, I don't think that either of these variances are inconsistent with the spirit, purpose, or intent of the regulations. I think that, to the maximum extent possible with the site in question, setbacks are being maintained, especially if we look at I think 6 point is poignant that if you look at the site as a whole, it's maintaining that visual or setback as much as possible, given the unique nature of what's happening here. I think the site itself is an exceptional circumstance. This is really a public utility, public safety use in a residential neighborhood. So I think that in this general neighborhood, it's not something that we're going to be seeing again. It's not going to be a recurrent area in this neighborhood. But I think that care has been taken to minimize the impact on the residential surroundings to the north and west of the property. I think that under the circumstances, a variance is necessary to preserve property rights here. This is a unique project that requires unique circumstances. I don't think that it's in the public's best interest to have these large rigs making turns out on Broadway and entering right onto the street. Certainly, I don't think we want our taxpayers' dollars bouncing off the street with a 3-foot drop right off of the driveway either. So I think that it's necessary to preserve property rights. I don't think that there's any substantial detriment to adjacent property. These the variances, both variances in question, are putting traffic out into Broadway and not back onto the residential area. So I don't think that there's any detriment to any neighboring property owners or the district itself. And finally, I don't see that there's any self-imposed hardship here, nor is it based on economic grounds. It's based solely on the exceptional circumstance of this project here, and the needs of the neighborhood to have adequate and centralized public safety and fire protection. So for all of those reasons, I would move to approve both of the variances requested, and I think that the overlap is consistent for both.
Great. So we've got a case made and a motion to approve as requested. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
No, I think you covered that.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was very thorough there, Josh. All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
John, you don't have like fire department zoning driveway distance from the streets and the code someplace?
Just
Not
remember,
have that, no.
you can't put up another 5 fire stations.
On Broadway.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good to see you, man. All right, let's move on. Number 2, Appeal 25-21, consideration with possible action on a variance request from Dana Dahlman Zakowski.
Close. Zajakowski.
What's that?
Zajakowski.
Zajakowski, applicant, and Aurora Baycare Medical Center property owner requesting to exceed signage standards at 2253 West Mason Street. And thank you, Dana. We'll get to you in a second. First, we'll hear from staff. John, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Oh,
Yeah, I got to do the conflict of interest too.
Yes.
Yes. Hey, gentlemen, it is the goal of this Board of Appeals to provide and conduct hearings that are fair in form, appearance, and substance. To ensure that this hearing satisfies those goals, please confirm the following for this appeal by stating, "I confirm." I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
As do I. I have not received any communication from any person or party about this matter.
I confirm.
I confirm.
I confirm.
As do I. Thank you. All right, John.
All right, so we're looking at 30-6, subject for directional signs in the exempt sign portion of the code. So we have a number of exempt signs, and within those signage regs, there are some conditions that are placed with bulk requirements upon those. So for directional signage, cannot exceed 6 square feet in commercial or mixed-use districts, which this is in. Has to be used for direction and safety of the convenience of the public at places like restrooms, parking areas, entrances or exits, loading areas, addresses, or similar non-commercial information. Sign height shall not exceed 6 feet. With this particular sign, applicant is seeking to place a directional sign, which is 84.5 square feet in size and 10 feet overall in height. This is property, it's in question, West Mason and 41. Aurora is doing small changes on signage, most of which got approved through typical signage fashions with sign permits, but this one is a bit trickier, and so we're seeing it here today. This is what they're looking to take out and make a newer sign with. At the entry point, where you see the ball coming here off the cul-de-sac, off of the West Mason access road, as you enter into the facility itself. Former sign had a variety of different locations for different departments within the building. This is a new sign, a larger sign that was put onto a monument and base that has a bit more brick veneer to it and a decorative nature compared to the former sign. I want to note this, where they're looking to put it in a very similar location. Nothing wrong with where it's being placed as far as location-wise goes. This sign that you're seeing right here received a variance back in the early 2000s for a similar nature. The sign itself is 45 square feet, and that's not been in place for a while. The size of the sign that's being replaced, we have to take into account the overall size. So that means the X and Y of the overall sign, that means where the actual written word is, and that brick area. That's all part of one sign. But this sign itself, where you're looking at just that Aurora Bay Care green with the written documentation or written word on it, is approximately 47 square feet. So it's 2 square feet larger than what the approved sign that was placed in the past is on site. That said, however, the overall signage that's looking to be placed in height now would be 10 feet tall in nature and 8.45 feet in width, when you're taking into account the overall signage structure that is being requested.
Great, thanks, John. Questions for staff? All right, let's hear from our petitioner. Dana, do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
All right, please tell us about this
Thank you.
request.
Thank you all for being here, by the way, and for seeing me tonight, obviously. I wanted to start off by just saying I'm representing the Aurora Clinics and Hospital for signage. They're making changes over the next year and a half with other locations as well. And this design would likely be placed there in the other locations also. The surgery center being one of them, which is the Aurora Bay Care Hospital. Unique property conditions, is that where I start? So while looking at this parcel or the property, it is on busy roads, but West Mason is more of a private drive. So thinking and also noting that it's out or within the vision triangle, it's not in the right of way here. And this sign currently is closer to the curb line than what the new sign will be. The new sign is going to be set back towards the boulders a little bit. So it's on the corner lot west of West Mason Street, and having Interstate 41 to the east of the property, it's important to have adequate signage to detail their location for the public. This is their main point of entryway into their facility, and it's a directional for a reason. It's to guide their patients and their clients to the right places. For the hardship is not a self-imposed by the property owner, but rather results from property's unique characteristics or circumstances, which is what I was just discussing with this sort of cul-de-sac-ish area. It limits the compliance with the existing signage code. Preservation to the public interest. Granting a variance would not negatively affect public health, safety, or welfare, nor will it harm the overall appearance or character of the surrounding area. Aurora would like to be sure that their patients that they care for can navigate their facility safely. It's consistent with other signage at other facilities, maybe not in the city of Green Bay, but this is one of their standard branded signs that they moved towards in the last 5 years. So we're just trying to keep congruency between the other properties. This proposed signage variance is consistent in nature and scale, design of signage at nearby or similar situated properties, and it would not create an unfair advantage. Several other hospitals in Green Bay area have signage that does not follow the code for monument or directional signs and are often 10 feet plus. I have the minimum necessary relief, I'm sorry, like a frog in my
No, it's
throat.
okay.
The variance requested represents a minimum departure from the sign code necessary to afford relief, while still respecting the intent and the purpose of the ordinance. We narrowed it down, we worked with John. We went through several revisions with the client to try to reduce the overall size and even design of it, and they kept going back to this sign. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay. Yeah, because it doesn't look like they did that at all.
No,
You
yeah.
managed to make a sign with less than half the information that's still bigger than the
Yeah.
original one, even without the brick of the facade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot. There's a lot of back and forth work with them, and I'm grateful to work with them.
Yeah.
But we want to also make sure that it's not affecting the public here in any way.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions for our petitioner? All right, well, let's deliberate. I would note, this is the second in 2 months of a directional sign with some similarities, I think, between them. And I know we do talk about, hey, and the variance is not so general or recurrent in nature to suggest that the zoning ordinance should be changed, but please staff hear us on that. Maybe the zoning ordinance ultimately needs to be changed a little bit around directional signage at the entrance to commercial and/or industrial sites. Regarding this, anybody want to take a crack at our conditions?
No. But I will say this, they haven't really tried to conform with this. They've made it bigger in every dimension for branding reasons, and that's not a reason to bridge city code. I will also freely admit that the original city code, you're going to have to get a variance at some point or another. Because what, about 6 feet, John? I thought you
12
said?
square feet.
12 square feet, yeah. I mean, that's not reasonable, you're not gonna be able to have a sign you can see, but what's being asked for is a sign that's decorative, and I can't, there wasn't even an attempt to make it closer to what it could be. It ended up being bigger than the sign that's there and conveying half the information. So while I sympathize that, of course, the public needs to be able to see where to go, all of that, and the current sign does do that, and I respect the need to put up a newer, better sign. The other one's probably fairly old, and the need to move it within the triangle, that's all cool. I also think you do need a variance, probably to make it big enough to be readable. But the variance you're asking for is asking us to make a variance on city code for no other reason than the corporation that wants it. If you can refute that, I'd be happy to listen to it, but...
I can't speak to that. This is a design that they have selected
Okay.
because of other locations.
All right, well, that's my piece, so.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, it looks great. It looks
Yeah.
really nice, but it's twice the size for half the information. I'm having a hard time getting there.
Well, half of the information, there are other directional monuments on, or I call them monuments, on the facility grounds that are this exact sign. They're just being remade. And a lot of their clients or patients are having difficulties navigating their parking lots. So that's why there's a change in verbiage on the sign.
Maybe they should try
Sometimes
bigger
less-
fonts and less brick.
You would have no idea. You could put signs all over and people still don't read them. Yeah.
I'm looking at this and thinking about the history here, that this sign itself was a previous variance approval. And given some of the other things that we've been talking about in some other cases recently, and the ability to like wayfind when you reach a site. So, I think leaning on our predecessors in finding on these tests, I don't have a big challenge. I don't think 2 square feet of blue is worth, I think denial over, I guess, in that sense. I think this is a better looking sign from, every standpoint, and getting it a little further away from the edge of the cul-de-sac pavement, I think is also a good thing and warrants maybe a little bit larger size. So I would just say, I don't feel that there's an inconsistency with our intent of regulating signage. Exceptional circumstances, this is like a sole business at the end of a cul-de-sac. This is a very similar circumstance to what we were talking about last time with a factory at the end of a cul-de-sac, that you can dump a lot of traffic into and you don't know which way to go and you want to direct that. I think it's weird in that respect. I think that maybe we haven't kept up with, in our code, the signage needs of the commercial public, and I don't think that this is I think it is necessary for the property rights, I guess, of having our customers find where they're trying to go. It's a horse apiece. I mean, it's a better looking sign, so I think there's I don't think there's any detriment to the public good with this request as presented, and in fact, I think as just an artifact in our landscape, it's more attractive than the one that's currently there. Self-imposed hardship, well, I guess in the sense that, they proposed something that's 2 square feet larger than the one that was previously approved, maybe you could make that case. But I think looking at this as a sign saying, this is the brand identity that we want our organization to have at the end of this road to enter the property, and we can't quite get there because our thoughts of how big the text needs to be and the arrows need to be and the monument needs to be in order to, appropriately welcome and direct traffic is this, as we're putting in front of you today. And I kind of agree with that. So I can see these tests being met, but I understand that I'm just one voice of several here.
And I want to be clear, I think that the request isn't for a 2-foot change, it's for almost a 40 square foot.
Yeah, because we're counting the bricks and the other things like
Right.
that, and again, I look at that as a little bit of the function of the way the code's crafted. I don't look at those bricks and say that's the sign. I look at the blue and the text and say that's the sign. In some respects, but yes, I know overall the area of this thing is significantly larger. But again, I'm not seeing that as a drawback. I'm seeing that as a way of visually enhancing it, because just the naked pylon of turquoise is kind of unattractive in my mind. But that's just where I'm at.
I don't disagree with the visual aspect of it, I can't get there based on what our factors are.
I think, can I take a look at the factors real quick? Because I agree with Noel in a lot of, especially with the previous variance of 45 feet, 47 feet and change with the sign, not counting the brick, doesn't seem like that big a change to me. If we have to get through all these though, and
I'm the newest one on the board, I don't know if I feel comfortable going through all. I don't know I can get past hardship. It may be a self-imposed hardship, but I still don't see the problem of having the sign because it is a visual improvement. So that's where I struggle with, where I'm not sure we can get through all these, but
Yeah.
I think that overall it's an improvement.
I think it is too, but I also think that, had they came in and asked for just 2 feet bigger on the turquoise portion, I probably wouldn't have had that many objections, because I think they need a variance anyway. I don't think they can put up an adequate sign there given our current code. So even if they come back, they're gonna have to come back to us again, because, unless they find another way, because there's no, the original amount of space they have, I don't think is adequate, even with, less than half the information, but. It feels like, this is a problem for the city council. If they, and how they measure this. And my point is, they're supposed to come in with variances that are the minimum change necessary to align with the code. And what I see here is not that.
Yeah, I'll grant that, and, I'm not necessarily going to debate all those points. I do think that, I do get when a company has got multiple facilities in multiple communities, and they talk about, this is what we're trying to craft as our identity, and that standard may not work in every municipality where they're trying to do their thing. So, they're trying for consistency, we're trying for consistency, it's just we've got different consistencies. So, just for the sake of having, something on the board here, I'm gonna make a motion to approve, based on, maybe my findings alone that this meets the test, but I make a motion to approve the variances requested. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Right, so we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
So that does not pass because it's, we're deadlocked. So I don't know if we need to make any other action right now, but we did fail to approve right now. So perhaps some further conversation with staff about some tweaks maybe can get us there, or I don't know, and we can come back.
So, how about this? As far as the sign goes, this would not go to you at all if it is 47 square feet or less. The variance is in place. 47 is the number that's been established by the board in the past.
A prior.
That stays in perpetuity, and we're not going to have this movement of a few feet in the general area be a cause for that exempt signage to be gone. What's coming to play is that this sign itself, because of that 2 foot, or the 23-inch
Base.
base along with the 3 foot, 3 inch above it to make 26 inches, turns it into a 10-foot tall sign. And the tallest directional signage can be is 6 feet tall. That's 6 feet tall there. That's hitting right at the max. This right here presents a challenge to the code for exempt signage, to where that had to be addressed then as well. That base creates that issue. I would suggest there are times where, as staff, we are trying to be liberal in interpretation. We are not trying to just say no to things. We are trying to find ways to say yes to this. If this sign did not happen to be above 6 feet tall and had the 47 feet of space, there's a possibility we could somehow make this work to where we say it's a sign and it happens to be an art element to a sign, but it's not part of the sign.
Mm-hmm.
But that base raises it, and now we have that question of being too tall to meet the exempt standards. And it goes too tall for our general exceptions here with monument signs, which in general are capped at 6 feet. Now, the applicant brought up a point that, as far as Aurora Bay here at the hospital facilities on the east side, that's a part of the I-43 Business Park PUD, has its own sign code. St. Vincent and Bellin has its own individual sign code. St. Mary's, along with the purveyor that's been built, the clinic at the corner of Taylor and Shawano, is part of the West Medical District 1, has its own sign code. So A lot of larger facilities have their own individual sign code, and that's why you see signs, frankly, that are going above and beyond what is out there, but this site does not. And for the rest of the signage package that was put forth, we found ways to say yes to it. It's just this one right here, you're seeing it because of it going beyond those bulk department standards.
So you could PUD it for a sign, but that is different work and a different way of doing it, but.
And I would suggest that when it comes to those, it's they're part of larger facilities, not, I would suggest a one-off, which is a clinic. And it still is an important clinic, but St. Mary's is a part of a multi-block PUD. St. V's and Bellin is part of the medical district, multi-block
Right.
in the near downtown. Aurora is a part of I-43, and it's larger district that goes from East Mason down to the city line back out towards Huron. So we're talking hundreds of acres out there, own separate PUD. This one, while it's, I'm not trying to downplay it, it's an important site, but it still is just one particular parcel. It didn't necessarily meet the threshold as far as I would think in the past, and I would still say now, meeting a PUD standard for just signage alone on this site, that the code itself, generally speaking, does a pretty good job of that, i.e. the majority of the sign requests that would happen on the site, if it's within the code, we can make it work. It's this one here, though, that we couldn't justify the exempt signage standards on what was put forth here.
Does this sign also serve the function of as being the primary identification sign for the
Yes.
property?
Not in the lens of, so it wouldn't meet normal sign code in general, going back to the monuments, maximum height is 6 feet tall. We're trying to find ways when these things happen to justify different parts of the code that can still fit in the exempt signage compared to a typical sign package that come forth with different wall elements, freestanding sign elements. In this case, because of the past variance that was put out at 45 feet specifically for an exempt sign, we felt that was the best way to approach it on this sign.
Sure. Well, it doesn't look like we've got the votes today to approve what's in front of us, so I would recommend we perhaps table this item and give staff and the applicant to some opportunity to maybe rework or come back with a modification that we maybe can get our arms around.
I didn't think we were able to do that after we take a vote.
Can we move to?
No, I mean, if you move to deny, I guess,
Can we move
We
to
did deny
reconsider
it.
the prior vote and then potentially do that?
oh yeah, I suppose, right. I thought I wasn't even gonna get a second, actually. Right? We had the motion.
I'll note this as far as signage goes, if there are substantial changes to a feature that's being requested, substantial changes, you can bring them forth back to the Board of Appeals. What we can't have is the same question brought forth again. This, what's been presented to us here, this overall structure would have to be a year's time, but if there are changes that are made to reduce and staff feels are substantial enough, it can be brought back to the board.
Yeah, we can always redesign and change the brick and the base, or the cap, to make it smaller or increase the verbiage on the face. But it's all something that has to always go back to Aurora for their approval.
Sure.
And this process takes an extremely long time, so it's a little disappointing, but it's all right.
All right, well,
okay.
we'll be here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
hearing me.
All right, information on next meeting is Monday, October 20th. And there's no other business, I would entertain.
If I should
to adjourn.
just make
Oh.
one comment about the next meeting, there will be a little more informational discussion about potential ordinance changes coming forward to potentially expand a little bit of the zoning board's jurisdiction.
Yes,
So I just want to make a mention that I'll be
we're
turning up.
eager for that.
What's that?
Oh, we're eager for that, yes.
We can appreciate your perspectives. We'll have a discussion at the next one. I just want to put that out there, that'll be there, so.
Okay, thank you. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make some motion.
All right, got a motion to adjourn, all those in favor say aye.
Can you get a second?
I'll
I
second.
said,
Okay.
yeah,
Wait.
one of us do.
Brian says.
Okay. Steve, go first.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think the board's